Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Regan's Rugby Strength and Conditioning. Today I've got another guest for you. His name is Anthony. He's a former professional and semi-professional rugby player, and he has transitioned into a coach and delivers mainly yoga and meditation style. And I think it's a really cool aspect that I use parts of in my program. So I thought it'd be really cool to get him on to the podcast. So cheers for giving us some of your time, Anthony.
Pleasure. No, thank you for having me on. We spoke a little while ago, didn't we, about trying to arrange this, and yeah, but to be honest, this was the perfect time. You know, I had my first child in the summer, so the last 8 months been a bit chaotic.
Been a bit mental.
Amazing, but chaotic. So yeah, we're kind of getting semi into the flow of things now. He turns 8 months tomorrow, so yeah, it's probably been a good thing to have that bit of time, to be honest, before we connected. So yeah, it's good to finally connect with you.
Yeah, it's good. I've experienced new babies through a screen, through either members or whatever, a lot in the last few years, and I understand not much sleep, I assume, and lots of emergency trips. So I don't really know what's going on.
All the advice I used to tell people about the importance of sleep over the years, I never really truly got it until the last few months, and how much it's affected me having broken sleep on a regular basis. So yeah, sleep is so important, man. And
what's your time split now with work? Because when I was doing personal training, I would get like 5 or 6 hours in the night and then 1 hour nap in the afternoon, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Yeah, so in terms of my work schedule, it's quite flexible, to be honest. I've got quite a good pattern. I spend plenty of time at home with the little man and my partner. And yeah, I have a few clients mornings. I've got quite a few through the day, which is really nice. A few classes through the day, and then obviously, you know, a few evenings here and there. I still coach rugby, so I'm still about on a Saturday afternoon on the side of a rugby pitch.
Cool. So yeah. You've given us an update now, and I admit I skipped a section. Why don't you give me and the guys an intro from I was told this on the last podcast, from the day you were born until today.
Blimey. We can
zap through a bit. I just stole someone else's quote.
So I suppose in my early years, sport was always like my thing. I loved playing sport. Wasn't rugby. I was a footballer growing up through school. I went to a school in London, in inner city London. So I don't even think they knew what rugby was at my school. So I was a footballer. Just would play football lunchtimes, after school, every day, weekends. Whenever I got an opportunity, was just out doing something like football. Well, probably football. And then when I went to secondary school, my brother started playing rugby, and he joined a local rugby team. And I was like, what's this rugby game about? And I went down for my first session and I made some tackles, and I was like, wow, this is the one. Like, forget football. I want to concentrate on this. This is so much more fun. Because when I used to play football, I used to love getting on the floor, love sliding tackles and stuff like that. And then in rugby, I was like, I could actually like plow into somebody, and it was like, you know, so I was hooked on rugby from the first session, to be honest. And I was only about 13, 14 years of age. And then, yeah, my progress accelerated quite quickly, to be honest. At under 16s, I represented Wales A. I was in the under 16 Wales squad, and missed out on a cap at under 16s because Alan Wynne-Jones was the first team second row.
Really?
Under
That's
16s,
a good claim to fame.
So yeah, I'd like trained alongside Alan Wynne-Jones when I
was
16, and like I remember like trying to tackle him in this one particular drill and just getting absolutely nowhere near him. He was a monster back then. But then at under 18s, I got my opportunity to get capped because Alan Wynne-Jones had moved up to play for the under 19s a year up. So I was like, sweet, I might get capped this year because Alan Wynne-Jones has been bumped up. So I got 4 caps for Wales when I was 18. And yeah, and then I joined London Welsh around that time, and yeah, got offered not really a contract, but a bit of support to get me through university, just a little bit of extra money and a bit of, you know, a few other incentives to stay London based for university. So I went to university at Royal Holloway University, which is just outside of London. And I continued playing for London Welsh through their academy and then into their seniors as I was at university. And then when I graduated, I got a full-time contract with London Welsh. But I was, I was only 21, 22, quite young in the squad. And yeah, didn't really get a huge amount of opportunity, which, I completely understand at this now. At the time, I was like, this is BS, like I'm not getting any game time, like the coach is this, the coach is that. But it's like, look, you were a young kid, this coach needed results. He's gonna play bigger, more experienced players than you. Just pipe down, basically. So I went on loan to Barking, which was in National 2. So I played in National 2 and National 1 for a few years for Barking, and then went over to London Scottish. So I was back in the Championship playing for London Scottish. And then on New Year's Day on 2012, so 10 years ago, I went into make a jackal, and boom, I got hit from a few different directions. The lower part of my leg went one way, the upper part of my leg went the other way. And I completely laterally dislocated my whole knee. So like my lower part of my leg was completely to the side of the upper part of my leg. It was like,
I hate knee injuries. If anyone knows me,
I heard you had a few yourself when you were younger.
Knee injuries.
So it was brutal, mate. Like it was, and it was pretty much as bad as you can get, really. Obviously, neck, spine injuries, the head injuries potentially worse, but in terms of like lower limb, it's just like, so that pretty much was the end of my career at 25. So
was it? Like, did you not play again?
I played a handful of times a few years later for the teams that I was coaching, but I never kind of went back to try and play at the level that I was playing at when I got injured. When I'd done the injury, I was told pretty much straight away, like, that's your career done. So for about 2 years, I kind of got my head around not playing again, kind of. But my rehab went so well. It took about 2 years working with a physio. I think I had about 4 major surgeries and procedures.
4?
Yeah.
My injury sounds like sissy compared to that.
But at the end of 2 years, my physio was like, this rehab couldn't have gone any better. Functionally, your knee is fine. It's probably not a good idea to go back playing, but if you wanted to, you probably could. So I spent about a year going, oh, should I play? Should I not? Should I play? Should I not? And at this time, I got into coaching. So I was coaching on a regular basis with a team in London, a team called Old Priorians, like London 1 level. And yeah, it was 2015, 14, 15, 3 years after, basically. I was like, right, I'm going to train for 12 weeks and I'm going to play a game. So you've had a guy on your podcast, actually, Keir, the rugby strength coach. He was doing like a pre-season online thing for the guys in the Southern Hemisphere. So I jumped in on that and trained from like January to March, and got myself really fit. And I was like, right, I'm going to play for the team that I coach. So I stepped back on the rugby pitch and played, just a handful of games for Old Priorians. And then I moved clubs to Windsor, played a few games for Windsor. And my body felt all right, like no problems with my knee. But
jealous.
Yeah, but I say that, but there was a kind of, a mental thing going on, like where I was like, I shouldn't really be playing. My body, although felt okay, I still wasn't amazing, to be honest. Like the knee wasn't painful, but it almost felt like there was a ball around my knee, like, and I've come to learn that it was just inflamed. So anyway, when I moved on from Windsor, I was like, I'm not going to play anymore, and I haven't played. Probably my last game for Windsor was about 4 years ago, maybe 5 now. And yeah, so now I coach rugby still, and I am a coach. So I have worked in education as well. I've been a secondary school teacher for a few years. And before that, I used to be a personal trainer. I used to run a gym as well. So big background in fitness. And basically found yoga off the back of running the fitness suite and obviously running the class program and putting on yoga classes. And
in your gym?
Yeah, but it wasn't my gym.
Sorry, the gym you were managing, yeah.
Yeah, it was the university gym. It was Royal Holloway University gym. So I'd try a class here and there and go, well, that's not really for me. Like, a few of the instructors we had were quite fluffy and quite, airy fairy. And I was like, oh, no, I don't resonate with this a lot. But then I found a teacher that was like pretty cool. And I was like, right, this feels pretty good, actually. My body's starting to feel a bit better. And when was it? About 4 years ago, I went on a yoga retreat. I was like pretty burnt out from running the gym, and coaching. And I was also, unbeknown to me at the time, dealing with just a lot of mental stress around my injury and, lack of identity, I suppose, from being a rugby player to then being a coach to then going back to playing a little bit of rugby, then not. I was just a bit mentally all over the place, to be honest. But went on this yoga retreat and it literally like blew my mind. It was in the middle of Spain, in the middle of these hills, like beautiful location. And I'd be moving my body in different ways. There'd be someone there guiding meditation. So I'd be actually relaxing and switching off for probably the first time in my life. I was very much a go, 100%, do 24/7, my whole life really. So, just that opportunity to just slow down and actually say to myself, it's okay to just stop for 5 minutes, was an absolute game changer. So from that retreat to now, I've just got into it regularly. And in 2019, I actually got sacked from my job as head coach of Windsor in like May 2019. We just won the league, actually. It was like,
and you got sacked.
We won the league, and a week later, the rugby committee pulled me into the office and was like, and in pretty much in these words, and thank you very much for getting us promoted, but here's your month's notice on your contract. And I was like, shit, okay.
Is there no reasoning or what?
Well, they made up some reasons that they thought were justifiable, but it was just one of them things. They'd lined up some people that they wanted to get in that were old boys at the club, and I was like, fair enough. Look, if you would have just actually communicated this with me, it wouldn't have been as brutal as you just not giving me any indication. But anyway, that allowed me to have a summer where I was like, I normally have pre-season games in August, and I'd started working in a school at this point, so I had basically 6 weeks in my diary where I was like, I've got nothing in my diary for 6 weeks. And then I was on Facebook, and as things do, little adverts pop up, and it was just like yoga teaching in Thailand. And I was like, spend a month in Thailand instead of getting stressed about pre-season and organizing pre-season games and like messaging boys about, are you available? Are you not? Da, 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 da.
I'm experiencing all that now. Fuck.
Oh, mate, it's brutal, isn't it? It's so I was like, do I want to do that and find another rugby club, or do I want to actually have maybe a season off or a summer off and go and spend a month in Thailand on a beach learning about yoga? And I was like, it was an easy decision, to be honest.
You did that, yeah?
So yeah, I went to Thailand for a month and done my 200-hour yoga teacher training, where it was just on this beautiful beach on Koh Phangan, which is like a party island. A lot of people know Koh Phangan is a party island. We were actually 2 beaches along from like the full moon party beach. But this beach where we were training was really quiet, and you can only get there by boat, and it was just unbelievable, just amazing. And we'd learn about meditation, we'd learn about breath work, we'd learn about the mind, we'd learn about all these deep things, and it just really opened me up to question my life, myself, my this, my that. And I was like, no, this is more than just stretching, which I used to think what yoga was about. And that's what a lot of people think yoga is. It's just about stretching, right? And yes, that's part of it, but there's this whole other part of yoga that I was opened up to, and I was like, wow, it's just like, and like you say, meditation is a massive part of it, and learning to be with yourself, learning to be still, learning to be quiet, was a game changer for me. Because like I said, I was always used to being busy, used to being, striving for stuff, looking for, winning leagues and winning games and
training hard, learning about it, getting this guy, like, partying out there.
It was a complete shift. And, and I still like all that stuff. I still like being a coach, and I love that feeling of winning on a Saturday. And, inspiring a team to, get up for a game and all this kind of stuff. And, that excitement when your team scores a try and all these things. I still love all that. But I've also got this other side of me now that can bring myself back down if I'm feeling stressed or, have got balance in my life within myself, which then has replicated into balance in my life, with everything else. Like I said at the start, it's like, having time at home with family and stuff. I wouldn't have even been in that mindset a few years ago because I'd be too busy trying to achieve stuff with work, with rugby, with this. I wouldn't have even thought about, spending more time at home with a young baby, which, maybe I wouldn't have been able to connect with as well if I hadn't have done all these trainings and had all these experiences. So I'm very grateful for all the experiences I've had. I'm very grateful to Windsor for sacking me from that head coach job.
There's always a silver lining.
Mate, there is. And I'm very grateful now looking back on my knee injury, to be honest. 10 years ago, I was told, I nearly lost my leg. I was told you'd never be able to play rugby again. I've come back and this year you saw on my post, that's why you reached out to me, that I ran a half marathon last Sunday just to celebrate how far I'd come with my own journey and recovery, and also to raise money for the Injured Rugby Players Foundation, which, I felt really, really good personally for being able to do that after such a horrendous injury, but also, to give something back to a charity that I didn't necessarily utilize, but, there's a lot of players out there that do get hurt really badly in the game that do access, and I've raised over £700 for that charity, and I know that's going to go to a really, really good cause. So
there's loads of parts of that little story which I would relate to myself and other guys would. One is obviously like when you stop playing rugby, you don't know at the time, but it's like, oh, what do I do? Like, what do I act like? I don't have rugby on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. What am I going to do? And now, again, I can look back and see at that time, I was just hanging out there doing the same thing, and it's really difficult to find something else. And I found another sport, which was strength training and strongman, but there was always like, I've not had a contact sport for 10 years. So it's hard to like drift away. And we can talk about a sec, which you've got a podcast, which is about life after rugby, right? Post rugby podcast.
Post rugby podcast. Yeah. So I started that around this time last year, I think it was. So I got through a season. I've decided to have 15 episodes in my season and create like a little infographic with a rugby team on with 15 players and names and stuff. So yeah, I've interviewed 15 former players from across the game, and talking about their experiences of life after rugby, life in rugby. It is a health focused podcast, so the guys that I'm trying to get on are S&C coaches, health coaches now that have had experience in the game of rugby. The idea behind it was to just share stories about what people have done on retiring from the game to improve their physical health and their mental health, because mental health is something that I saw before I started the podcast, was like there's a lot of people out there raising awareness for mental health, but how many people are actually trying to do something about it? And I see myself as someone that really is passionate about actually taking action on helping guys, rugby players, with their mental health. And I see things like yoga, meditation as a powerful tool in that in that world, in that field. So the next season I'm going to start shortly will be focused a little bit more on that, and like you're doing here, use it as a forum to get guys involved with the Yoga for Rugby that I'm going to be relaunching shortly, because like I say, I've kind of given the podcast and the Yoga for Rugby and the online stuff that I'd started this time last year a bit of a pause because of little man and
daddy duties came in,
bits and pieces going on. So that's the premise of the podcast, and I love it, mate. I really miss it. I love just having conversations with like-minded people and people that I resonate with because they've had experience in the game of rugby, and those that haven't played or experienced rugby probably don't quite get why there's that almost like a special bond between people that have, because you kind of know like what's involved in actually stepping on that field. It's like it takes certain qualities to even step on that pitch, you know. So yeah, it's awesome.
And with that podcast, it just popped in my mind that someone I spoke to a couple of weeks ago who was potentially joining. He didn't in the end, but he was talking about like, I haven't played rugby for 4 years. I'm still eating like a rugby player. I'm still drinking like a rugby player, but I don't exercise and I feel terrible. And it's like it's like you said, the identity thing is you have to merge with what you want to do, and if that's not serving how you want to live and how you want to look and feel, then you got to change something about it. But
that's where like the power of stuff like meditation has really helped me, is because meditation is all about being present. And when you're not present, and say that image of that rugby player that's given up 4 years ago, you're still living as that rugby player from 4 years ago. You're not present in your body, in yourself right now. And understanding that, again, there's a lot to unpack there with people, with understanding that concept, and you know, and that idea of attachment, of attaching to an identity of a rugby player, which you know, I was stuck in for a long time, and I didn't understand, you know, what was going on in my mind. It was like I still acted and behaved like I was a rugby player, and I had all this energy and all this like anger that I used to kind of like express on the rugby pitch. Now I would express on the side of a rugby pitch. And I remember like when I first started coaching, the amount of F-bombs that I used to drop in my team talks was embarrassing looking back. But I realize now it used to be just that energy that I used to express by hitting people and stuff. Now just like it's got really nowhere to go other than like
So what, you bottle that, or what does it mean? You deliver it in a different way? How's that changed then?
So yeah, it's firstly recognizing it. Like all us rugby players have got this fiery energy inside of us, right? And you know, it's learning to express that through something you know, positive. So like using that energy to create a business, for instance, like you've done here, this like awesome like online program and group that you've created. Like you've used that energy to go, right, I'm going to create a podcast, I'm going to create this Regan's Rugby, where I'm going to help rugby players. So like that is a really good expression of using that fiery energy to like, right, I'm going to get this shit done, I don't care, I'm just going to like really work for it. But others like will express that energy in like, you know, getting on the piss and, you know, like and arguing and things like that. The other expressions you can, you know, find other sports like, you know, martial arts or powerlifting or things like that. But it's just that fiery energy that we have inside of us. And sometimes that fiery energy can be used for positive things. Sometimes it can unfortunately be used for quite destructive things. But until we kind of like sit with ourselves and feel that energy and understand that energy, it's kind of hard to even know what I'm really talking about right now, maybe even. But you know, but we've, on the flip side of that, we've also got energy that wants to chill out, that wants to be calm, that wants to be still. And it's that energy that I've really tried to work on over the last few years with the yoga and meditation, because that fiery energy just leads to burnout if you're just going all the time. And that's what happened to me. Like, I think the year before I got sacked from Windsor, that previous summer, I pretty much had a burnout. I'd done a year of teacher training and a year of coaching, pretty much a full-time job at Windsor and full-time doing teacher training. And I was completely burnt out. You know, I had that energy to want to do it, but because I didn't have this balance with rest, with, you know, those kind of practices, I just completely burnt out. And again, that's where I had a bit of a crisis, to be honest. And, you know, the things that helped me out of this crisis was actually reaching out to people, mentors and coaches, to get some help. And you know, that's been another powerful part of my journey, is actually reaching out to others and going, I need a bit of help here. And whether that's, you know, help with slowing down, help with understanding what's going on in my mind, understanding about this whole identity kind of thing, or help with starting a podcast or starting an online business, which again, I still don't really have a clue about. Still learning, still
learn on the go with all these things.
Well, exactly. But yeah, but you know, it's all exciting. And like I say, because I'm getting better at being present, I'm not getting stressed as much about things that I don't know. I just trying to embrace and be curious with things like that. And yeah, it's I can't even remember what the original question was now, but who cares?
Because we're using, or me seeing myself using words like identity, meditation, yoga. Again, a few years ago would think I'd never be talking about that. But if you learn these things on the way, and it even took me a long time of doing them like silently or being embarrassed and only telling Viv or whatever, to actually telling the first maybe member or a friend. And then you find out that friend's like, oh, actually, I've got a journal as well. You know, it's like, oh, really? Like, you didn't realize that your mate that you used to get pissed on every week at uni is doing that as well. And then now I use parts of it in a program. And we said, I don't know if we said before or now, but 10% are like, this is absolutely incredible. I've never done this before in my life. And other people maybe never heard of it, and maybe they're going to have to try it a few more times. But it's like with busy dads who work in 10, 12 hours, they got kids when they come home, they're sleeping 6 hours. They might not know the last time in 10 years where they've had like 15 minutes of nothing, which is what I explain meditation is. It's not just humming with candles on and stuff. And like, there's versions that do that and it's useful, but just 15 minutes of nothing. People are like, I haven't had that for 10 years. And then they just they realize how good it is. And when I did a few yoga classes back in my old gym, the stretches, I was like, I know these stretches, but I've never held them for this long. I've never breathed with it. And at the end, there was like a 10-15 minute just lie down like a starfish. And the first time I was like, what is it? Like, I'm paying for this, I'm just lying down. And then after the first one, I think I like fell asleep. I was like, Jesus, like I just fell asleep there. And it's like, you finish it. I mean, I had to go back to stressful gym managing after the class, but then I was like, I was looking forward to that 10 minutes at the end, which was just like an actual chill out in your day. So,
well, that's what a lot of my, people that I come to my classes and that I work with enjoy the most, is because, like you say, not many people get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of space in a week where they can just stop. And that was exactly the same with me. And that's exactly the same with me with yoga as well. I was like, I quite like the movements and the stretches, but as soon as I had to lie still for longer than a few minutes, my mind would be twitching, going, right, what do I do? What do I do? Because, us guys, us rugby players, we're used to doing. We're not used to not doing. But when we don't have a balance of doing and non-doing, we end up burning out. We end up feeling stressed. We end up, out of balance. So, actually programming some time of non-doing, whether that's going to a yoga class, whether that's just going for a walk outside on your own for, even if it's 10 minutes, or practicing some breath work. Breath work is a good place to start if you've never meditated before, because at least with breath work, you've got something to do, and that is follow your breath and maybe do stuff to the breath. And, other things to do, which give a lot of benefit in a short amount of time that you can just move and add into your routine on a daily basis. Just thinking about your clients and your dads and stuff, is doing stuff like cold showers, where it forces you to take a few more mindful, conscious breaths. And the breath is so important, and we talk about it in yoga a lot, because the breath happens right now. Like, the mind will often want to be somewhere in the future. I've got this thing coming up. I've got this deadline. I've got this game. I've got this blah, 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 blah. So the mind is often somewhere in the future, planning, thinking about what we have to do in the future, or the mind will be somewhere
in the past. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it will be dwelling on, oh shit, that didn't go that well yesterday, or oh, that was awesome, or da 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 da. It'll be somewhere there or somewhere there. So by practicing focusing on your breath, you're bringing your attention and your mind into something that's happening now. And because the breath happens now, it brings your attention to now. And that place is, they call it the present moment in yoga, they call it presence. And that is a powerful skill in itself. And I done a talk at a university yesterday to some teenagers. I sometimes do some talks on mindfulness and stuff like that now as well, in schools, which is really cool. And yeah, one of the things that I talked about with them is like the benefits of mindfulness and being able to pay attention will impact every single thing in your life. It will 100% make you a better rugby player, because if you can just keep your focus on the game rather than, say you knock on the ball, make a mistake, you're in your head thinking about that mistake in the past for the rest of the game, it messes your game up. Or you're in the future worried about the result, so stressed about, are we going to win, are we not, that you end up not being able to play to your potential. So being able to be present on a rugby pitch is also, so crucial. And even outside the rugby pitch at work, being present with your work, and then being able to just go right, boom, put the laptop down or drive home from work and be in that dad mode, be in that present mode for your family, for your kids. And again, that's something I'm very much working on, and in the deep end with working on, closing this laptop down, going next door, and there's a little 7-month-old rolling around on the floor going, ah.
It's very difficult to just switch personality as you leave the workroom, or
it
maybe
is.
If you work from home, which a lot of people do now.
Oh, massive.
And me and Viv we both had to learn that I'm like, it takes me a while to zone out. And that's why I like to, you were bigging me up for my new farm. I like to go outside and tinker around, have no screens for a while, and then I'll come back in and I feel like I've re-entered the home in a new, I'm not at work mode. I'm not. Why have we done that? Why is this not ready? Because that's not a fun way of doing it.
But mate, what you're practicing there is you're practicing being present. Nature is another thing that really helps us be present. Like when you feel the air on your face, that's happening because you're feeling it on your face right now. You can't feel that yesterday, or you can't feel that tomorrow. Like if there's like a rock on the floor and you're moving that rock, is there on the floor in front of you right now. So what you're doing actually there is practicing mindfulness, practicing bringing your focus back to the present moment. The working day's gone now. Now you can be relationship Regan, or do you know what I mean? Like, so that's, mate, that is absolutely perfect as a practice.
I think people being at home for the last 2 years, they've been more willing to look about it because maybe they've struggled more being in their walls, or more stress from something worse with their job. I think if anyone's heard about these techniques in this show or wherever else, it takes more than just doing one time, because I've tried to explain it to my friend who's go 5 hours sleep, train twice a day, and I tried to say, why don't you just chill out a sec? And he said, I tried to do that meditation video and I just didn't like it. And I was like, it's more than one time. Like, you don't go to rugby when you're 13 and you're not a fucking expert. It takes years. Not that you need to take years to feel the benefit of anything we've been talking about, but it might take 5 goes or 10 goes for you to finally actually like tune out and feel like this monk on a mountain. But there's a real benefit, and like, if you're listening to these ideas, don't just do it once and go, that was fucking shit. It'll take a few practices before you get the benefit, like a training session, like anything really.
100%. But yeah, like I say, nature's just such a good way of bringing yourself back, after a stressful day, or even a stressful game or whatever. Just stepping outside and taking a few deep breaths outside, looking at something and just noticing, listening to birds, all these kind of things, they all happen in the present moment. They're all things to help us get back into the present. Nature, has got a lot of, signals as to how we can be present. But when we're in these 4 walls in a house, and we get kind of locked in this prison of the mind where we're constantly having to think we've got to do more and when we go out into nature, nature's just chilled. Nature's just doing its thing. It's like, it's not trying to strive to, do more. It's just being as it is. So again, it's a teacher that I've, used, I've learned from just walking outside, looking around, trying to be a bit more in tune with the season. So when all the leaves fall off the trees and it's winter, and it's like, maybe that's a signal for me to slow down for a little bit over the winter, rather than push through the whole year. And that's
This
what
is
I've
a
talked
bit
about.
out there, but every other animal follows the seasons. So
Exactly. Oh, mate, I know. We think we're so, so powerful
developed.
and so developed that we don't have to kind of like, worry about this stuff. But, I've told all my clients this year in January, I was like, I don't even want to talk to you about what you want to achieve in 2022 in January. January's a month for rest. It's a month where we're recovering from Christmas and New Year. February, March, when everything's starting to grow again, the energy's changing, it's getting lighter. That's the time to go, right, what do you actually really want to do this year? These next few months up until the summer, that's your time of action. So, listening to nature and having some periods in your year where you rest, and then looking at your week, month. Is there periods in your week, month where you can actually have a day off, where you can, just go with the family to the woods or to the beach, or, is there a pocket of time in the week where yourself, when you go to the gym, has it got a sauna and a plunge pool there? I chatted to one of my clients the other day that he's a member of David Lloyd, and they've got a pucker plunge pool and sauna. I was like, right, your session on a Friday is to go and spend 20 minutes in that spa area, do a bit of sauna, do a bit of plunge pool, and then go and sit. They've got this like room, it's just like this little quiet room. And I was like, go and sit in there for 5 minutes. And that's your workout for today. So it's almost treating that. So I've done a lot of training with the Czech Institute under Paul Czech, and he coined the term working in. So you work out and you also have to work in.
Which is personal.
And everybody's got a balance between, how much capacity they have for working out. If someone's got a very stressful life, do they have much capacity to work out? Probably not that much. But everyone's got capacity to work in, because working in actually builds energy, and it helps also regulate stress. So walking is a form of working in, for instance. Gentle movements connecting with your breath, like yoga, is an example of working in. So it's like, can you fit in a workout twice a week? And can you fit in a work in session twice a week, where, you just spend time focusing on your breath, focusing on relaxation, focusing on gentle movements, and try and find a bit of balance with the movement. So that's where I start with a lot of people is, rather than going, right, go and chill out and stop. People aren't used to stopping, but they can just shift their energy with their movement. So instead of working out hard, it's like, do this movement, but do it really slowly and connect with your breath. Like a bridge, a simple bridge where you're lying on the floor with your knees bent and you lift your hips up to the ceiling and come back down. Do that 20 times, but connect the movement with your breath and do it as slowly as you can. Something like that is a good example of a work-in movement. So,
and people don't realize even physical training for rugby, not rugby, for weight loss, for whatever, rest is just as important. Like, you don't need to blast it a million times a week. I don't know if he's going to listen. I had a new member join last week, and I kind of took his advice more than what I thought was right. And he had like 6 workouts in a week. And on one day there was a moderate workout and then his rugby training. And we learned after that week, because he felt pretty shit at the end of the week, like, you got to bring it, we got to bring it down. Like, and I said to him, you're not 22 and this is how you trained at 22, you're 32 and you've got a full-time job and you've got a young baby. So we can't be doing 6. And it was quite a debate for me to say, we got to take some out for the long-term goal, rather than burning out after 2 months, which is not good for anyone.
But trying to kind of get that across to people is tough when they're used to just being in that same energy of push.
And rugby players like that, don't they? They want to beat the other prop, they want to beat the other flanker, and it's go, which works on a field. On a game for that 80 minutes, you do push, but around it, training can be not restricted, but like, doesn't need to be 100%. It can be 80 or 70, or even the in training, which is, I don't know, 0.
But also, like, going back to basics of simple muscle building is like, you're not actually growing when you're in the gym. You're growing when you're out of the gym, when you're sleeping, when you're eating, when you're, allowing the body to slip into that anabolic state. which is more restful state, your stress and do mode is your catabolic state. And that's what the energy you're using in the gym. You're breaking stuff down in the gym when you're working out. But when you're building that muscle, you need to be able to chill out. You need to be able to sleep. Like if you're so go, go, go that you're not sleeping, you're not going to grow your muscles. You're not going to get stronger because you're not allowing your body to shift into that anabolic state, which is more your rest and digest state of your nervous system.
That's what I personally learned about a bed routine, which was when I was doing personal training, and I had maximum 6 hours at night, which when I was training for strongman was not enough. Yeah. And I would know if I want to be asleep at 11, I can't look at my phone after 10:15, and I just need to chill out for that to happen. And even the breath work you said before, sometimes if I'm in bed and my head's rattling, I'll just try and count like 30 big breaths, and I'll often be asleep, but by the end, and it's and that wouldn't happen if I didn't practice stuff on my own. But yeah, it means you sleep better, which means the whole next day is better, whether it's attention or energy or mood, and that means that everything's gonna spiral upwards rather than spiraling downwards.
Going back to sleep, it's like so critical. And there's things you can do to help boost your energy and your recovery, like meditation, like breath work, like working in. Like myself, with this half marathon training, I had to be really careful with my training load. I hardly done, to be honest, I didn't really do a huge amount of training for this half marathon because I knew if I up my training load too much with the lack of sleep I'm getting, I would pick up an injury or I would not be able to do this half marathon. So I'd done one long run a week, one shorter run a week, a few sessions in the gym, but light sessions in the gym. And the rest of the week, I would focus on just relaxing, chilling out, trying to keep myself, in that balanced place, because I knew that run on a Sunday would significantly tax me out. And that's the same as rugby players. That 80-minute event on a Saturday is fucking hell. That is a big workout. But how often do rugby players even think about that recovery after the game, or are they straight on the piss, which is pretty much 90-95% of rugby players, right? Maybe even more than that, maybe even close to 100%. Especially social players, and that's fine because that's obviously a big part of the game. But it's like, I think if we, as a community of rugby players, started actually taking that other side of the coin a bit more seriously, I think performances, and the game could, see another jump in growth, because, you see it with the professionals now, all the kind of stuff that's come out about the contact in training and the head injuries and all this kind of stuff. There's lots of kind of attention on the demands of the game. So it's like, right, why don't we put the focus on actually helping players recover from games, recover from training, recover from their heavy gym sessions and their weights and their conditioning and all that kind of stuff. So that's, where I see potentially my place in the rugby world being is helping rugby players shift into that more restful place and, help promote these more restorative practices that's going to help them ultimately perform better on the pitch and ultimately, improve their lives when they finish playing as well.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say yoga is a good practice for that because it encompasses so much. It encompasses the breath work, it encompasses the gentle movements, the stretches, and it also encompasses relaxation. Like those elements, just those 3 or 4 elements, can be game changers for a lot of rugby players.
I think you don't need any equipment for it. It's not like a new hobby. It's not like a new hobby like a cycling or you go climbing. It's like, I've got 20 minutes. I'll fit that little thing in, or I'll watch a little video. But what I was going to say,
that's where there's definitely room there to do something to complement the S&C. S&C in rugby is always going to be there. You 100% need to go to the gym, and you 100% need to work on your conditioning and your physical fitness for rugby. 100%. I've had guys that have just done a bit of yoga, and it's just like, you can't just do yoga and expect to not go through a rugby season without getting injured. Like,
do that without any other training?
Well, no, exactly. You just can't. That's just like, so strength and conditioning is 100% fundamental in the game of rugby. But if you wanted to be able to actually, slow yourself down and, and look after your body a little bit more, there's definitely place for things like yoga and more mobility work, more mindfulness, more relaxation as well. So yeah, I think it can complement the S&C world really well. And that's what I'm going to be working on over the coming months, is to try and create something for rugby clubs, rugby players to say, right, get your guys involved in this. Let me come do a class at your club, which I've done as part of my fundraising for my half marathon. I went out to a few rugby clubs and led a few yoga classes, and it was like, a few of them come up to me afterwards like, I've never done yoga before, but something happened there. I was actually felt really good. Yeah. And it's interesting, because before the start of every class, I ask everyone, right, what's your thoughts on yoga? What's your opinion on yoga? What do you see yoga is? People will be like, yeah, stretching, it's relaxation, it's calming the mind. Just get different ideas of what people think it's about. And once you experience a class and then you finish and you're like, I actually feel pretty good. Even like my body feels good, like I'm feeling a lot more focused, a bit more energized, and it's like, I think there's something in this. And I think that if you look at a lot of the Premiership teams, have got things like yoga in their weekly plan now.
What did I see? I saw on a sevens tournament, I think it was the French team, after a score, they would come together and they would do like 5 big deep breaths.
Yeah.
I didn't see, I think someone told me about it, and then they'd carry on. So professional teams are doing that.
Yeah. Well, I had a girl on my podcast last year, Alex Donovan, who runs a company called Yogability, which is like a mix of yoga and mobility. And she leads her Yogability classes, essentially her yoga classes, for the Bristol Bears. And she works with a few of the first team players at the Bristol Bears, like that Semi Randra. Yeah, however you say his surname. Who's like one of the best players in the Premiership. He's doing yoga. If you listen to, I don't know if you ever listen to Johnny Wilkinson these days, like this man has been on a real deep journey into his mind and stuff. He's got a podcast actually that he's just started recently, Johnny Wilkinson. It's called I Am, which is a real, it's unbelievable podcast, but it's really deep, like really deep. Talking about the mind and talking about the psyche and like just deeper aspects of the human experience, away from the kind of physical, what you look like and what you do. It kind of,
that's cool. I didn't realize.
I definitely recommend checking him out. He's done an interview with there's a famous doctor over in England, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who's got a big famous podcast. And he had him on as a guest that I listened to last week. Really, really interesting. Yeah, I definitely recommend that to guys to listen to Johnny Wilkinson's podcast and just see where some of these big names are, taking themselves. And Johnny Wilkinson says this exploration he's been on, like he was when he was playing for England, had this quest of being, that self-mastery of the game of rugby. He's now really interested in self-mastery of himself as a human being, and it's mind-blowing listening to Johnny Wilkinson talk about all these deep things. It's like, wow, these are the kind of stuff my yoga teacher was talking about. Johnny Wilkinson's talking about this stuff. I'm like, wow. So these kind of things, if the people at the top end of the game are starting to talk about it, like you look at some of the stuff that Kyle Sinclair talks about, like he's obviously had some kind of like mentor that's helped him understand his mind, and it's an ocean of
Opportunity.
possibilities and opportunity that, we're only scratching the surface of it, I think. But it's then having the courage to open up to doing stuff and meditation. One of the definitions that I really like for meditation, that I heard a while ago, is meditation is to become familiar with. So it's being able to stop and actually become familiar with what's going on in your head. Like, what are these thoughts that I'm constantly thinking? Why can't I slow down? Why do I have to think I have to do stuff all the time? Why can't I relax?
It's drilled in your head since you're 4 years old.
Well, exactly. But why is that? And it's just like, you start asking these kind of, there's different types of meditation. Like there's meditations where you ask these questions and you like just kind of see where your mind goes with questions, or there's mindfulness meditations where you focus on breath and stuff like that. But yeah, the more interesting side of meditation is actually getting to have a relationship with what's going on in your own mind. And that's scary. That is scary, right? That, a lot of people don't necessarily want to look in the mirror at stuff and go, yeah, I'm really angry because this happened to me when I was, this age, or, I'm really angry because, my relationship with my dad or my brother was, like this, or, whatever it might be. It's like, we often find it challenging to look in the mirror and go, right, what's my relationship like with, alcohol, with women, to pick a few things from the rugby community that are like focuses. Like, why can't we be ourselves unless we've had 10 pints? Why can't we dance like an idiot on a dance floor unless we've had 10 pints? Why are we self-conscious about, making a fool of ourselves? And these are the questions that I've had to ask myself over the years. And that's why now I don't need alcohol to go and dance at a wedding. I was at a wedding last year and I was just like loving life. Like, a good friend of mine, good vibe, just like on the dance floor, like, woo! And everyone's like, bloody hell, what's I'm drinking? And I was like, sparkling water. But it's uncomfortable to go to these places sometimes. But when you unpack stuff and you understand yourself at a deeper level, it's like, you can let go of, having to, prove yourself, having to, think you have to be the best. And you just, life is a lot more relaxing and you can just flow with life a little bit more without that expectation. So yeah, we've gone quite deep here, but
yeah. I was gonna wrap up with, this is another level compared to my friends from school or Keir, the rugby strength coach, but I think it's good to understand. And if some of the things you've heard you are not aware of, or they were new to me 4 years ago, maybe new to Anthony a few more years before that, and it's very beneficial. And you can talk about these things and do these things without changing a lot. And if you find benefit, then keep going. We are reaching an hour, Anthony, so I'm going to need to wrap up. We've done everything. I've done everything I wanted to go through, so we don't need to finish on any goodies. But if anyone wants to get hold of you, I mean, if you're in my Facebook group, Anthony's in the group, and you can comment on this video and I'm sure he will answer. But if they're listening, how could anyone watching or listening get hold of you?
So the best place, probably Instagram. I've got Instagram, coach.ant on Instagram. And then my website is Anthony Andrews Mentoring. So you can have a look on there. And yeah, over the coming months, I'll be starting my season 2 of the Post Rugby podcast, which I'll get up on there. And hoping to launch a yoga for rugby players app in the near future.
That's cool.
Which, yeah, hopefully I can get out to rugby players and get them, practicing some of the things that we've talked about today, and using that to, like you do, just offer some group stuff and other bits and pieces. Once I get a little bit more headspace, when the little man goes off to nursery soon, I can have a bit more time and a bit more headspace. But no, I'm really looking forward to connecting with more rugby players, and I've certainly enjoyed the last few months going out to a few clubs and meeting players and talking to them about yoga and actually getting a really good response. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential there to, like I say, you know, collaborate with S&C coaches and you know, get into clubs and show them that you don't always have to beat yourself up to get a lot out of your body and your performance. You know, a lot of benefits can be had from just being still and visualizing games and, you know, tapping into your emotions
rather than working
out.
Exactly, I'm going to steal that, by the way.
Mate, do it. Check out Paul Check.
Paul Check, like Czech Republic.
CHEK. His book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, is one of the original like Bibles from back in the day, from like 20, 30 years ago of S&C. Actually, he started as an S&C coach, but you know has grown into like a leading holistic health coach. So yeah, it's a really interesting guy, crazy guy, absolutely mental, but yeah.
That's cool. Right, guys, I'm gonna have to call it a day there. We've zapped through. I'm sure we could talk a lot more. So cheers, Anthony, for your time today. If anyone wants to get hold of him, you know how to do it. And maybe we'll do it again sometime. Plenty to talk about. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. Wicked. Cheers, guys. I'll speak to you soon.